whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for October 27th. I'm Mike Kirkwood, and we're just checking attendance here. We have Tricia, no? Sarah?
Yes.
Yes. Zach? And Lindsay? You're not on this list. Yes, you are, Lindsay. You are there.
Carissa.
Chris, okay. Yeah, this. Oh, there we go. That's why I found it. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so we have a public hearing on the agenda this evening. We'll begin, first of all, with approving the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as it exists?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
And second by Lindsay. Thank you. And then approving the minutes from the,
Make a vote for that.
all in favor. I'm sorry, we have to vote.
Aye.
Aye. Then approval of the minutes for the September 22nd meeting.
A motion to approve the minutes from the December 22nd meeting.
Thank you. Second.
A second.
A second. Okay, Sarah, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. All right, so let's move into the public hearing then for the comprehensive plan amendment. Is that the first one you want to do?
Yep, that's it. Yep.
That's the big one.
That is, I think, why we have people here. So yes, thank you, Chair, members of the commission. The public hearing on your agenda this evening is for a comprehensive plan amendment. It is for a group of properties, I think 4 in total, located on the south side of State Highway 7, east of Grimm Road, and just west of the roundabout there at Kings Point Road. The request this evening is to consider changing the future land use of that property. Currently is in our urban reserve future land use guidance, and the applicant here is requesting a change to the residential low medium. The expectation with this development, we're looking at about 160-ish gross acres of land. That doesn't include, wetlands and other things like that. That'll all get figured out through the process. The idea is looking at a density of roughly 3.5 units an acre. That's the Met Council's new system statements. That's what they're going to hold the city of Minnetrista to in their 2050 plan. So obviously, looking forward, that is something that the city should consider when looking at this type of request. Is roughly that 3.5 units per acre. Looking at these properties, like I mentioned, they are in the urban reserve. That's areas that are kind of on the fringe of the current developed areas that the city may, if it wishes, consider for possible future urbanization. And that's what we have here is we have a landowner that is pursuing that request. So for the planning commission here, that is the purpose of your hearing. We did send notices out to property owners within 500 feet. I did speak with an individual as a result of that notice, and then did get a couple of other calls after the packet was posted. I did provide you with one written comment that came in over the weekend that obviously didn't make the packet. It looks like we do have plenty of individuals here, so we'll allow them to speak during the public hearing. So with that being said, taking a look at this, like I said, when the comprehensive plan for 2040 was adopted and this was moved into the urban reserve, that kind of set the ball, if you will, in motion for these landowners to consider the possible future urbanization of their property. When a request comes in, the city can certainly consider it. I think based on kind of where we're at and, the need for the growth of the city, it is something that certainly makes sense to consider. So the recommended action here would be to make a motion to the city council to recommend that they approve the comprehensive plan amendment on these properties based on the findings of fact and conditions in your report. So obviously we have a lot of people that are here tonight that would like the opportunity to speak that might impact the decision you have to make. So I think it makes sense, unless the developer or the applicant here wishes to answer any questions, I think we should get to that hearing and see what issues and concerns are out there before you make your decision.
All right, very good. So we'll begin with a public hearing, and that will, generally, we would invite the applicant to speak first if they'd like to. Are they here?
Yeah.
Right there. And then we'll follow up with comments and questions from the rest of the audience. So I'll open the public hearing at 7:06. And please come on up if you wanted to speak to us. Name and address, please.
Good evening, Planning Commission. I'm Steph Griffin with MI Homes, 5354 Parkdale Drive, St. Louis Park. Nick did a great job of explaining the staff report. I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to listen to the public hearing. Just wanted to introduce ourselves with MI Homes and as well Rachel Development, as you can see in the staff report. Really the ultimate goal of us being here tonight is to talk generally about the planning of the site, maybe not necessarily project specifics that we're not there yet. This is an early stage part of the process, but happy to answer any questions on, that come about from the comp plan amendment. And our goal here is to present, as we go through the process, a well thought out, well planned project similar to Woodland Cove that MI did alongside other developers, and happy to continue to be part of the community. And we're very grateful to be in Minnetrista and would like to continue to make it a great place to live for people. So thank you.
Thank you. Any others from the applicant? Okay. All right, then we would welcome any questions or comments we would have from anyone else who would like to speak to this plan amendment.
Tom Houston, 7330 Highway 7, right across the street from this project. Really curious on traffic. It's just, I've been here 4 years and seen just an incredible increase. The roundabout is busy as heck. Getting out of my driveway is scary. My son had an accident about a month ago, trying to just turn into our driveway, and he was just crushed by a car. So I'd like to see something thought about what that is. You mentioned 2040. Is that when things start, or what does that date have to do with anything?
So our current comprehensive plan guides the city through the year 2040. So we're looking kind of that far out. That doesn't necessarily mean things will develop at that point. It certainly can be before that point. It's a long-range planning document, is the 2040 comprehensive plan. So this would obviously, because they're making an amendment, this would happen a lot sooner than that. I mean, the anticipation would be,
And the question is, if M&I gets approved in all this, what is their fastest track of plan? And
so this is the first step in the process. So the city has to consider the amendment first. And then if it chooses to approve the amendment, it has to go through the Metropolitan Council and has to be approved by their board. It follows a very similar process, can be between 60 and 120 days on that type of application. So 2 to 4 months. So, I mean, the comp plan amendment could still be, 2 to 4 months out. And then you got to get to a preliminary plat, and that can be, another 2 to 4 month process. So it's several months.
But do you have any thoughts about how the traffic's going to flow?
Well, I'm not a traffic engineer. That's not my trade.
Does anybody? I mean, is there anything?
And that'll definitely get reviewed as part of the process for sure. And obviously we'll have to partner with the state because it is Highway 7. So we'll have to partner with them in any way we can to, see what needs to be done.
So when we see the preliminary plat, we'll have drawings.
Yes, once we have a drawing and an actual
Possible access
laid out.
roads, and we'll review all of that at a later
Right.
date. But
All right. I'm concerned about traffic. All right, thank you.
good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comments, questions?
Hi, Caleb Lovelace, 4530 Grimm Road. My concern is what's gonna happen to my property, because I'm just down the street from this development. Is it gonna get torn down? Is it gonna go down in value? Is it gonna increase? It's like that's,
Sorry, could you just repeat the question?
so I live just like 500 feet down from 4250 Grimm Road. I just wanna know how this is going to affect my property.
I mean, obviously, once we see a concept, we'll know, but I mean, there's no plan to make any changes to your property. Your house would not be torn down or anything like that.
Okay, so, okay,
I mean, obviously, the surroundings are going to change if things do progress and things happen, but to your immediate property, there would be no proposed change as part of this request or anything like that. So you'd be able to keep and maintain your property as you do today.
okay.
I'd also, from the cheap seats over here, but I'd also say that this is a very open process, and if you stay engaged in it throughout the whole project, in my experience, the city council is very open and interested in the needs of the existing residents and are very considerate of those when they're doing the planning. So you will have, I feel like I could assure that you will have a voice in the process.
Appreciate that. I don't want my view to turn into an apartment complex. You know, thank you.
Thank you, Galen. Anybody else? Thank you.
Hello, my name's Eric Olson. I'm part of the Segner Family Farm. Question I have, going back to what the gentleman back here said related to the 2040 comp plan, could you kind of dice it up a little bit more as far as like timelines? You said within a couple of months. Can you just give a little bit more insight on, you know, that development plan? You know,
Yeah, like I said, I mean, the comprehensive plan is a long range document. So I mean, it's giving the city the framework and the structure to make decisions through the year 2040, right? That doesn't mean things will or won't happen before then. By the applicant coming in, they are, I guess, starting the process as it relates to their property. So obviously, we're here at the hearing tonight. You know, once we, you know, they come to a decision here, assuming they do, that gets forwarded to the city council. If the city council then chooses to move forward with this, we have to submit this application request to the Metropolitan Council. They're a governing agency just like the city. So they have between 60 and 120 days to make a decision on their end of it. If that all comes to fruition, then the city's long range plan is in place for possible development of this site. And they would then have to start what's called a preliminary plat process. That can be, you know, depending on how things go, between 60 and 120 days, so 2 to 4 months. If it makes it through that process, then there is a final plat. That's typically another 60-day process, so another couple months. So yeah, I mean, it is still probably, you know, like I said, 2 to 4 months for Met Council, 2 to 4 months on a preliminary plat, 2 months on a final plat, so 6 to 10 months. So I mean, it's probably at best end of next year is probably what you're looking at. And that might be optimistic.
Tell them the end of next year, about a year.
Possibly.
Kind of have those numbers kind of already wrapped up. I mean, you're laying them out pretty quick. So I would imagine within a year.
I mean, yeah, within a year, it's going to depend on how fast they want to move, right? I mean, that's obviously thinking expeditiously, if that's, you know, how development sometimes works, but if they want to take time and be engaged through the process, they could move that on.
Yeah, I mean, we understand. I mean, the development of the farm has been around. I mean, that's 6th generation right there. You know, all 7, you look through all these major roadways, they're riddled with old farmhomes that have been taken over. You know, it's really sad. But, you know, when you look at, I think we're just hoping that as far as we've already been approached just from this early stages of people hitting us up. And what we're trying to avoid is, you know, being pushed out. You know, again, 6 generations, you don't see that too often.
No,
you know,
don't.
and what we're trying to do is avoid, you know, just keep it going. That's what's, I think, steer these kids right, keep them off the iPads, the phones. And, but another question, we were talking about the congestion. So the 14 to 16,000 cars that go through that daily. So again, what is going to happen in that, in your 1 year plan, where does the MnDOT come into play as far as determining what they're going to do with the roadway?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think a big component of it is having a conceptual layout, right? Of understanding what, where, you know, what is the access going to look like? And then I think the developers understand, I mean, it's going to be more important to have an early conversation because, you know, it's not just that, you know, this development's impact on it. I mean, it's the corridor as it sits, right? I mean, I think a lot of people recognize the issues that Highway 7 present themselves independent of what we have in front of us tonight and what might come in the future, right? And I know the state is looking at that. I don't know what their implementation plan is But that's something that, I think in this case, keeping them abreast as early and as often in the process is going to be important here.
So are they aware of this already?
I believe there has been
This play was already, okay. Yeah.
the develop, obviously when we switched it from, it used to be the rural designation, which is, more akin to farming and stuff like that. You put it in the urban reserve, and that's kind of an in-between of possible urbanization. It doesn't guarantee it. Obviously, it in part comes with the willing landowner if they're interested in doing it. It kind of opens the door a little bit for that. So once that started, I'm sure it was on people's radar, but I know the developer here has had early conversations with MnDOT about, what it might look like. So it's certainly on their radar.
Yeah, there's no doubt. When you look at the property, when he bought it, we always talked about this. He's going to do something with it. You see it just coming all west. People come west because they want to see open spaces. And then what happens, they build those open spaces into homes and now you lose it. So, but it's just curious of the timeline. That's what we were talking about, the 2040 plan. So really, you're probably talking about a year that we'd see probably equipment in there or earlier.
I think that's a fair estimate. Yes.
Okay.
A fair estimate.
So is there an estimate as far as development into, say, 2 years, we'd see homes?
Maybe the developer could speak more closely to that. Like I said, it depends on how fast construction moves.
So,
I'll get up and answer.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you.
Okay. No, I just said, when you look at a comp plan, you're looking at 2040. Everybody thinks 2040. It's not going to happen in 2040. We're going to happen in 2 years, right? Okay. All right.
And maybe just to add in clarification, so there's the big project going on from Hopkins to past St. Bonnie for Highway 7. Can you maybe answer where does that end in proximity to this project, which is just past St. Bonnie as well?
Well, St. Bonnie's further west. So, this would be more in the middle of the or not middle necessarily,
Okay, so
but
it should be part of that big Highway 7 project as a whole.
and that's corridor study they're working on. Yes, it's definitely within that.
So what typically happens with like our value and our tax rate? And I hear this one, it's not our first rodeo, but it's,
No.
what do you foresee?
I wish I could answer that. Hennepin County is the city's assessors, so they would be more in tune with how it impacts property values. I'm sure it's, depends on who you ask, right?
But there's got to be someone that has numbers on pulling off all these farms up at 7 and 5 and, there's got to be some.
That would be the Hennepin County assessor that would,
probably, yeah. Right.
he would have that information pretty readily available, I would think.
Right. Anything else?
Lawrence Segner, 4705 Grim Road. I want to know urban reserve, it used to be 10 acres for a home. What happened to that?
So yes, as part of this process, they will have to rezone to allow for a different land use or different lot size. But yes, the stage development urban reserve is a 10-acre minimum.
It is.
Yes, so as part of this process, when they go to that preliminary plat, they will be likely requesting a rezoning of some sort that will allow for a lot size conducive to the density they'll need
That
to
would
achieve.
reduce all these homes coming in.
What's that?
If it was 10 acres per home instead of,
You certainly, you wouldn't get
Acre,
3.5
but-
units an acre at that,
Yeah.
no.
so, okay. That's one.
But that's part of the process, and again, that requires a notice and a hearing, so you'll certainly be informed and invited to participate in that process when they do make that.
Change my land to anything I want then, if this goes through, right? I could put a golf course on my farm. If you're going to do that with urban reserve, put it residential. I could go for that too, right?
I'd have to look exactly. You're at the end of Grim Road?
Yes.
Yes, so you're in the urban
Born there.
reserve and the stage development, yep.
Yes.
So any use with
No one
consistent.
knows that 1881 we started there.
Yeah, so you don't have to, any use that the city code allows, you could operate on your property. If you wanted to change that, you'd either could amend the code to consider a different use, change your zoning to consider a different zoning, but to do what you're doing, you wouldn't have to change anything.
But I want to keep what we got.
Yeah.
That's what I
And
want.
again, it's not, this change doesn't directly impact your specific property. It'll stay the same zoning, stay the future land use. Obviously, the surroundings again will change. And that's where you're being invited to this process to continue to make sure to what extent your voice is heard you can in terms of what gets done there. But your specific property, unless you make a change, nothing will change with your property.
Okay, thank you.
Mark Segner, 4705 Grim Road. Yes, it would change. The view of our land would change.
Yes, I didn't mean it in that way. I meant in terms of how you operate your property, that won't change. Yes, obviously views and things around you will change.
When Mr. McCready acquired that property, his reasoning was when he leaves, he doesn't want to look at homes every day. And I shared that same view back then. I share that now today, and we'll share that probably forever. But and everybody has the right to change their mind, but that's just the thing. We've been there that long. I don't want to look out and see Kings Point Road. I got to drive by that every day going to work. And that ain't what I like. I remember what it used to look like, you know. So I'd like it to stay the same. You know, we'd enjoy the land, we'd work the land, and for the last working farm, that side of the city, you know, and we're not giving up yet. So, thank you.
Understood.
Mark Erpelding, 7365 Equestrian Way. We're on Upland Farm, a horse farm across the street from the proposed development. What is the Planning Commission's 2040 plan for growth? You mentioned you're looking at this plan because the city needs to grow. Why does the city need to grow? I have not read the 2040 plan. What is the city's?
Well, part of the component, I mean, there's fiscal decisions that come in with the city and budgeting that occurs. They just approved a $23 million water treatment plant.
Because there's more homes going in, so they need more water treatment. Yeah.
I mean, you know, it is a chicken and egg situation at times, yes.
But is there an overall plan that the 2040 plan lays out? Is there a desired end density or population?
I don't know if I don't know if we're that far out. I mean, obviously the 2040 plan doesn't include the full development of Minnetrista. I mean, there's still areas that remain rural and will for quite some time, right? So, I mean, obviously to sit there and find an end game is very tough because I don't know if or, you know, when the city will fully develop, right? I mean, it's beyond 2040, it's probably beyond 2050. So to have a complete end game is probably not in the plan right now. I mean, the 2040 comprehensive plan is online. You're welcome to review it. I don't have it memorized. Maybe I should, but you know, it's a long document. But yeah, so I mean, you know, that's out there so you can see the framework of the decisions that this commission is tasked with. But yeah, I don't think it would have an end game for the city at this point, just because I don't think that's within that range of timeline.
Thanks.
Nope.
Real quick, it mentioned in the, I think the information that I saw on the website that there was a prelim subdivision plan. There wasn't anything that's supposed to be done by mid-October?
I can speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah, answer that a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
My name is Jamie Kittleson. We live on 7350 Highway 7. So our property, along with Tom's property and the Mises property, were zoned for commercial. So we're totally across the street from all the 2040 plans. So where does that lay for us? Like, has anything developed? We haven't heard anything since the last meeting from that. Are we the 2030 plan?
No, that's the change is made for the 2040 plan.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, you know, just again, that's a long range planning document is, you know, yours was actually also rezoned to commercial. So it's zoned and guided for commercial. So based on that plan, that would be the expectation at some point. I mean, obviously there's many components into actually developing property, right? But so, I mean, that's where your property has, but there's no change.
Has been said or done or talked about or?
No.
Okay, we were just checking.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Michelle Damero. I live at 4400 Oak Road, right across from this development. Excuse me. You mentioned that the 3.5 density requirement is a 2050. Why are we doing that in 2040? Why can't we start lower than that?
Well, because the Met Council is going to start implementing it very soon here. The expectation was maybe in the beginning of next year, starting to hold cities to that level. Again, those are planning documents for long range. So I mean, that's the goal there.
You know, when we moved out here 23 years ago, when we were buying our property, I called the city and I said, I don't understand this 2040 plan. And your predecessor said that you wouldn't have to worry about that. It's going to remain zoned 10 acres. And here we are, you know. It's very sad to see this happening.
And I understand, yeah.
I also want to address the traffic on Highway 7. The state, of course, we all know that Highway 7 is one of the most dangerous highways in the state. And the state just came out with a plan for Highway 7. I think anybody could access it. It's online. Basically, from the city of Minnetonka all the way out to, I'm not going to get the name of the street correctly. Wildwood?
Williston.
No. From Minnetonka all the way out past St. Bonnie, the major intersection, past
Wildwood.
92.
Wildwood.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, every major intersection is now going to be either an overpass or a roundabout, which means that from Minnetonka all the way out past St. Bonnie, including 92, there will be no stop lights. It is going to be a constant stream of traffic. Now, I don't know if you know where Oak Road is, but we can't get out as is right now. This plan is going to call from anywhere between 400 and I believe I read 475 homes. If you figure 2 cars per home, that's an incredible amount of traffic. And the only thing between Kings Point, which is a roundabout, and 92, which is going to be a roundabout, there is no way for us to get out on Highway 7. We can't, in the wintertime, we can't get out because traffic coming from the west, we can't see due to the snowbanks. In the summertime, the grass on the sides of the roads is so high, we can't see until we're almost out in the middle of the intersection. So traffic is going to be a huge concern. And the construction on Highway 7 is going to start in 2029. I can't imagine what that's going to be like when you've got this huge development going in across the street from us, plus all these major intersections being closed, rerouted. I have no idea how they're going to do that.
Thank you. Come on back if you want. You have some follow-up?
Hearing open, you want me to
Keep going.
I thought it might be helpful just to address a few of the items. I'll start with traffic, because I think that was the first one that came up, and absolutely understood. As we mentioned, we have reached out to MnDOT to already talking about 7. That's absolutely a big part of the planning of this. Taking a step back when we talk about just planning of the project, I mean, this, as we mentioned, is a very early stage part of the process. And our goal is to, I think, as you mentioned, really engage throughout the process. And I think the city is very committed to that. We are committed to that. This is the first step in that process. There will absolutely continue to be outreach from us and then through the public process. So that's just kind of from a high level. When we talk about traffic, there's a lot of stakeholders, MnDOT being a very big one with Highway 7. We've started those conversations. We are absolutely aware of the study that MnDOT has been doing. We're going to be part of the conversation. That's a huge part of our site planning here. It's important and critical to us that there's safe access to and from 7, not only from this, but for all of the traffic along the corridor there, as you know, similar to Woodland Cove. So part of the process going forward would be, with the size of this site, an environmental assessment. Part of the environmental assessment would involve traffic study, and that traffic study would absolutely look at Highway 7, and we would be, part of that as we look at all the access points potential for this site. So absolutely hear those comments. It will be a large part of our planning and engagement as we go forward. Then just wanted to touch a little bit on the process of this is just reiterating it, this is our comp plan amendment application. This is not a preliminary plat or, this is just the very beginning stages of as we move forward. And the 2040 plan is what's been in place previously. The 2050 plan, why that's being, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong here at all, but part of that conversation and is that what Met Council, the comp plan is required by Met Council, and the cities have to enact go forth with their planning based on their comprehensive plan. 2050, from my understanding, the reason why Met Council is requiring the 3.5 units to the acre is because of growth requirements that they're putting across the Metropolitan Council area. So it's not just Minnetrista alone.
No.
It's the whole metropolitan area. And I think, that's part of our planning process is we want to bring forth a project that's going to be a part of Minnetrista for a long time. And we really are going to take the time. And I know the property owner that's very important too, that we're building something that is going to be a sustainable project for years to come. So it's certainly something we're very sensitive to as well. I just want to make sure if there's any other questions that I maybe needed to answer as well. I think that kind of covers it a bit, but happy to stand for any questions as you guys have your discussion too. Thank you.
So just to reconfirm and clarify the process going forward from this point, what we're deciding this evening is, in a nutshell.
I mean, it's the possible framework for future development of the property. And we're not approving an actual development here. We're, I guess, giving the city, the ability to consider then that preliminary plat that would conform to the requested change here by the applicant. So this is just the ability, another step in the ability to develop it. When you do the preliminary plat, that's when you have an actual plan laid out in front of you of how things are going to look, and that's when things would get laid out and become even more real, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So I mean, there's still more public engagement involvement that will take place in this process, that it'll just go through the motions.
Right.
Do you want to close the public hearing, or
We're still in the public hearing,
Okay.
aren't we?
I didn't know. I thought you were moving to discussion. I was confused. Okay.
So I think when you look at the road, I mean, the traffic, and I think she's talking about the possible updates. To me, I mean, I see that when we pull out of Grimm Road, I tell my kids, you better buckle up because we're gonna get smashed. You go left, it's nasty. I mean, it's incredible. Like I said, research I did, it's 14 to 16,000 cars a day. Just 5 years ago, it was like 10,000 or something. I think that there should be some due diligence on really what's going on in that road before you decide you're gonna open up a plan that can handle that kind of traffic. Because it is, the person was talking about it, it is just terrible to get out of that road. You're gonna go east or west, you're really taking your life in your hands. So I think maybe go to MnDOT, maybe spend some time looking at that and doing some data, doing some due diligence. What is it gonna look like with 400 homes at 2 cars per home? And then back it down, because it looks like you're going, let's go with the development and let's worry about lives later, right?
Well, I don't think that's the intent. Like I said, this is the comprehensive plan amendment, the beginning stages. As alluded to by the applicant, I mean, there is a level of environmental studies that have to be done. That's before the Met Council will even consider the amendment. So even if the city approves it, remember that the Met Council has to approve it as well. So through that process, there will be an environmental study done, which will include traffic, and the understanding of what that might look like will become more clear before that is even approved.
One more.
I realized I forgot to answer your question on the concept plan, so I knew I was missing something. Part of the narrative did say we would have a concept plan to review by mid-October. The simple reason why we don't have it yet was kind of goes back to my comment on the time we want to take to make sure the site plan is done right. We had an Alta survey being done and we're working through the wetland delineation that was approved. There was a notice of decision done on that. So it's just, we're taking our time to make sure we're really looking at all of that before we put that in front of with this application. So staff has been aware of that and we absolutely are working on that, and it will be something that's, comes forward fairly shortly. Thank you.
Apologies. I saw in that information too that there was additional properties that were needed. If you look at the bottom of your proposal, it was on the very bottom of the conclusion, item number 2 or 3, talking about additional elements or additional parcels that need to be. I can show it to you.
Yeah, I see it. I'm looking at it right now. I think just that, I think just the point was that the reason why this is coming forward for the comprehensive plan amendment from urban reserve to what we're proposing is so that other assemblages don't need to be made within the city. So the part of this application or part of this narrative spoke to the fact that the reason for this being requested to be amended from urban reserve, which is the 10 acre parcels, to the proposed 3 to 3.5 units to the acre, is so that part of kind of our thought process behind that being this is one assemblage of land and there's other smaller parcels within the city that are currently in the current 2040 plan that are not urban reserve, that are guided low density, but it would take a lot to develop them because they're small parcels.
Okay, so we're talking about this parcel here, you acquired smaller parcels, and you probably have an idea of where those are within your.
I think the point is that we don't require that then, because this is a larger assemblage where that takes away the unknown of any of the other parcels that are within the current guiding.
Okay.
That would be the reasoning for requesting this amendment with something that's in urban reserve, is that it's a large assemblage of land that does not require an assemblage of other parcels, that it could be developed as one assemblage and move from urban reserve, which is the 10 acre minimum, and go to something more like a 3 to 3.5 units, which is the residential low to medium that we call it.
Like 3.5 per acre, that whole area.
Woodland Cove.
Excuse me?
You're talking Woodland Cove
Right.
density, I believe, and you
Probably around like 3.
Yeah.
So those are a little bit, so 3.5 acres, okay.
And that's a variety of different types too. You also had the Macintoons, and you had some of the apartments. That isn't the intention with this site. It's a residential site that would, be more of in line with the other residential within, for sale residential within Woodland Cove. One other comment I did just want to, I think I forgot to kind of add on to was your comments on asking about timing. And I think I just wanted to kind of reiterate that that's probably in line with what we're talking about when people are asking how long this would take. This is a process that's going to take us time. We intend to take our time to get through it and make sure, as you said, everyone has their, there's public hearings and other things that we would listen to input. And just like Woodland Cove was a long process as well. So the intention is likely sometime in 2027, there may be homes starting there. So if that helps with clarifying timing. So.
Thank you.
I have a question. Oh, do I have to get back up? Sorry.
It's only because the mics can't hear you otherwise, and it's recorded.
Since we did not get the sketch plan, could we postpone this? Because it clearly says that it'll be ready in the middle of October, and we can't see it.
I mean, if the commission wants to, that's something they certainly could do.
Sorry, we're going to repeat the question, Kim?
It says in the proposal or the amendment request that there will be I don't even know what it's called, the sketch plan will be available mid-October. Well, we don't have the opportunity to see it, to look at it. So, we can't really discuss it to the point or in depth like we need to.
Which would be more of a detailed layout
Yeah,
of
I mean, is there a way we
how the
can,
land might be developed? Is
could
that what
we
you're saying?
postpone this or?
It's within the commission's ability to do that if they chose.
Okay.
If they
well,
feel they have enough information to make their decision, they could do that. Again, they're a recommending body, so it's not final action. That's for the city council. So independent of what they do here, it would be forwarded at some point to the city council. So there still is time between what they decide on here and before it's even presented to the city council, where we could have a conceptual level plan made available to people.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
I have one last question, sorry. Does Carver Park have any influence on, since this is bedding up to Carver Park, do they have any pull on that or decision or?
They are certainly, for two different reasons, made aware of what's going on and invited to introduce or involve themselves in the extent they want. One, because they're another public agency. When you go through comprehensive plan amendments, cities do keep these other agencies and other cities informed on what decisions they're considering. And then also just because they are an adjacent landowner. So they got a direct mailer like you all got. And then they also got a separate notice for general comment to the amendment. So they're certainly aware what their position is. I guess we'll have to figure that out through the process, but they are certainly kept abreast of it.
They have quite a bit of influence, or is it just, hey,
It depends on what their position is. I guess I don't know. I don't know what their view on it would be. Once we figure that out, then we'll know what influence they may or may not have, depending on if they don't have any concern, the influence probably goes down. If there's concerns, then the developer and city would have to work with them to figure that out and address those in any way we can.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, if no other comments, I will close the public hearing. So Nick, can we just review what are the milestones that'll be happening from this point going forward to decision-making milestones that'll be happening?
Sure. So as the planning commission, you are a recommending body. So this first step we are looking at here is for the comprehensive plan amendment. So that is just to change the future land use of the property to something that would be conducive to possible development. So your recommendation.
We feed that back though. In other words, we're letting go of the 10-acre minimum and allowing properties to be built in 3 to 3.5.
Well, that would be the guidance, right? The zoning would need to change at a future date. So this is not addressing the current zoning of the property. So to what size these lots will be, that will be addressed with the preliminary plat and a future rezoning request. The guidance will change.
I want to clarify for all.
Yep, the guidance will change.
Another series of decisions that are being made.
Correct.
Other milestones.
Yep.
So that's the next one likely.
What's that?
Yeah,
we have to work through, obviously, the comprehensive plan amendment at our municipal level, and then the comprehensive plan amendment at the Met Council level.
Right.
So that is a two-step process.
Right.
And then it goes into the rezoning and the preliminary decision, which will be, at this point, probably, several months from now.
Right. And when are they coming back, the developer coming back with proposed layouts, sizes of lots?
So to the comment.
There's another series of decisions here that the public has a chance to have input into.
Yes, so unless the commission desires, if you feel you have enough to make your decision, you can make your recommendation tonight. If you don't, you certainly can postpone and wait till a conceptual level plan is presented. But the expectation is independent of your decision that the hope would be to have a concept plan for the city council before they make their decision on whether or not they would approve the amendment. And that's before it even goes to the Met Council. Otherwise, it'll come back at least for sure at the preliminary plat stage. If not, if they choose to do a conceptual level review, which we offer as a courtesy, you could get it presented in that way. It really is going to depend on if the developer chooses to go down that route or not. So there would be, like I said, if you feel that you would like to see that before you make your decision, you're welcome to delay till our November meeting and hopefully have that concept. If you feel that you have enough to make your recommendation with the idea that the concept would be presented at the council level before they make their decision, you could do that. And then obviously you'd potentially see it at a preliminary stage or a concept stage, depending on the path the developer wants to go down.
What are your thoughts, Ken?
I'd say if we're going to make a decision to recommend anything, we see the same information that the council is going to see.
We're just recommending whether or not the zone, which is, can you go to the comp plan map?
Yeah, that was my question on, I actually had her on the zoning, just listening to the conversations around that. You talked about the urban reserve and then you jumped to the low, medium residential, and there's one in between that's called low residential.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering, what's the stair step in between? And then when we're talking about like the Woodland Cove at roughly 3, and this at the, high side to the amount of homes was like 3, I think it was 3.4, so right under that 3.5
Mhm.
threshold. But just was wondering what the in-between zoning was. You jumped from 10 acres of house to 3.5 per acre. What's the in-between?
There wouldn't,
Potential.
I mean, in terms of, as far as an option for the commission to consider, or?
Yeah, just wondering what the scale.
The low
stair step is.
residential, 10 acres.
No, that's urban reserve.
Urban reserve is
There's one in
usually
between.
10 acres per lot.
Got it.
When you go from that urban reserve to a level of urbanization, I mean, you can look at those different future land uses, whether it's residential low, medium, high, right? And it's just how much do you want to have
Yeah,
growth, right?
I was just.
So there wouldn't be an in-between. I mean, you don't go from urban reserve to residential low, medium.
Okay. So there's no
There's-
difference between low and low medium. It's the same
It's-
density per acre.
The residential low is a lower density. I believe with our current plan, it's like a 1 to, top of my head, it's like a 1 to maybe 4 range for that one. The residential low medium off the top of my head was like a 3 to 3.5. Part of the consideration to go to the residential low medium versus the residential low is when considering the density, right? As Ben mentioned many times tonight, the Met Council is holding the city to a 3.5, right? And they're always looking at the minimum. What's the low end of that range, right? So if you have a range that has 1 to 4 and one that has 3 to 3.5, they're going to look at the 1. They're not going to look at the 4. They're going to look at the minimum, right? So that keeps that overall city's density way down. So if you go to the low medium, that somewhat raises the floor and keeps your numbers at that 3.5 units an acre. So that's the reason for the decision being made to go from not low to go to the low medium is part of the math problem.
Got you. And then just another question around, protecting the rural nature of Minnetrista. Like, can there be requirements and things around greenery coverage to surrounding neighbors or guidelines along those lines with the development?
That's certainly things that can get vetted out through the preliminary process, especially if this would end up as what's called a planned unit development. There would be a series of gives and takes, if you will, where if there are things that this development presents that are impacting adjacent properties, we can look at buffering or open space or landscaping, whatever is necessary as we figure it out through this process of where the areas of concern are and what the issues are. That could get vetted out during that time.
I have a question regarding the urban reserve. This area is considered currently urban reserve, is that correct?
Correct.
And as an urban reserve area, is that inside or outside the Metropolitan Council's purview?
I mean, it's not within what's called the MUSA line, the utility service area, so it's outside of that. So
any recommendations they have wouldn't be present to this?
I mean, part of this request would be bringing this into the utility service area. So then obviously they're involved.
Oh, I need some water. All right, Nick.
So yeah, I mean, they are not concerned entirely with, it's when you start connecting into utilities. That's when the Metropolitan Council gets more involved. So in the urban reserve, they're not entirely involved because it's not an urban area yet.
So then, correct me, the 2040 plan's goal is to preserve the rural setting of Minnetrista while also focusing on growth?
Yes, it's a balancing act. As a developing community, you're balancing between those two.
Sure. So when they did the 2040 plan, they laid out the current areas based on their projected perspective.
The idea of where the city may grow, right? So areas in the urban reserve are areas that may develop in the future, where the growth may occur, right? So obviously when you look at this overall map like we have up here, you can see the rural in kind of the darker olive or it's, olive color, whatever it's called. Then the lighter olive is the permanent ag. Those are, the 10-acre lots, the large areas. And you can see where, I guess even the darker yet olive, almost brownish color, that's the urban reserve where possible growth can happen. Like I said, that doesn't guarantee development. It just so happens we have an area and a corridor that is seeing growth in the city and a landowner that is interested in considering the options of developing it. So
Where are the areas on the map that are the current low, medium density?
There's not a ton of them. Let's see if I can zoom in here and if it gets more clear. But areas like that are, a moment here, kind of in the northeastern area of the city. Parcels around the school. Orchard Cove along 110, Red Oak, those are all in that residential low medium.
Okay. And what was the percent, or do you have any idea what the 2040 plan says as far as the percent of ruralness? Or I know that a lot of it's one per 10 acre, but also 1 per 1 acre. Those
in terms
of can still maintain somewhat.
I mean, I guess I would just be doing rough math, but I mean, you look at the areas of the city that are in those two green colors I referenced, and even the darker olive is still, until it's changed, in that 10-acre area. So, I mean, that's a good area of the city land-wise. Obviously, it's not for population-wise. Those are concentrated in the other areas that have developed.
Sure, but is trying to have a good balance of that. Is that kind of the incorporation of?
I mean, that's historically what Minnetrista has tried to aim to do, right? It's a developing community, but also very rich in history with farming and agriculture and rural. So it's a balancing act to try to keep everything,
And with the new water treatment facility, was that in response, or I know you said chicken and the egg, but is that part of that being the new Woodland Cove area that's just been added recently?
I mean, we need it for the current housing stock we have, but also if, the city desires to continue to grow, it's going to be needed for that as well. So it's kind of serving both purposes. It's kind of retroactively helping what we already have, and then it also will help serve what we may have in the future.
And what expansion did they built into that treatment facility plan as far as estimated increase in population or number of houses or density, whatever that may be?
I guess I'd have to check with I don't have that number off the top of my head.
Like, you want to know whether or not it can, how many more houses?
Yeah, I mean, like just based on
for
what
growth.
areas are available for low and mid currently versus what could potentially be changed from the urban reserve to more high density.
So the treatment plant is just going to be on the south system. So anything tied to the north system, it's not on this. So all growth, the plant will be able to cover the growth that we're expecting, including this project, including a few more we've built in to get us to 2050 and longer, pending if people use less water. There's plenty of growth. We're putting in a 635,000 gallon clear well, so there'll be plenty of water. There'll be plenty of clean water. So it's built in for growth. We had them, AE2S, do the projections to make sure that this could accommodate growth in the south system, so we won't need another one in the foreseeable future. If somebody buys property up on the north system and wants to put in, 600 homes, that system will need to be addressed because they're not tied together. They can't be because of just the layout of Minnetrista. But it's being built for growth, so it's gonna last. I mean, like, we should be good for quite a while. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just concerned about if there's development in the south and then there's also matching development in the north, if the city is going to be taking on too much burdens to handle that load
if
for
we
the entire city versus just one region of the city.
It would be similar to this process. They'd have to come and get a comp plan amendment, and the council can always vote no. Like, we can't do growth in both sides of the city at the same time with our water and infrastructure and stuff. So ideally, we'd continue to see the growth on the south side because that's where we're putting in the water infrastructure. And 20 years, yes, maybe the north, because this one will be almost paid off, and you'll have to keep growing as people want to sell their land and developers want to develop it. But ideally, the growth will continue on the south side because that's where we're putting in the infrastructure. Can we just talk for a minute about the impact of the Met Council on this? Yeah, that's what it is. They have complete control, and this is what we are being pushed to do as a city, because the Met Council says you need population density or we're going to take all your taxes and not give any back to you. And that's what this is pacifying. And maybe I can say that because I'm not on the council and nobody votes for me. But I mean, yeah, I would love if there was all farmland in Minnetrista for the rest of my days, but we don't have that option. So this is the best of bad situation. And we have to let some of our land go to this higher density stuff. And the comp plan has it focused on the corridors where the roads are set up to do that. And one of them is Highway 7.
I get it.
And that's what this is.
What is the requirement? It's so much by 2050, is that their plan for the Met Council? Is they're trying to grow?
I mean, that's just, every 10 years, the Met Council and the cities update their plans. So I mean, it's again, a long range look at it. So yes, I mean, the goals and the system statements and the plan set up are through the year 2050. That's what we're currently operating under, right? I mean, at 10 years from now, we'll be talking 2060 and so on and so forth.
But based on the city's 2040 plan, they've addressed that by the original redistricting or rezoning of what they had plots for. So they had originally planned that growth to take place in certain areas other than others, not saying they're completely closed off.
Well, the city did that. When we adopted our 2040 plan, I mean, we started laying the framework of where we envision the city growing. And to Sarah's point, areas of, where we were seeing it were along the bigger roads we have, Highway 7. So, I mean, it's a situation where that urban reserve doesn't guarantee development. In this case, it just, the stars are aligning a little bit more than it has in other situations and other circumstances. We've had areas go in and out of the urban reserve without being developed. So, I mean, it's just, things are lining up here.
What are your thoughts? Any other discussion from the panel?
I mean, today we're not approving any plat. We're not approving any plans. We're just, all they're doing is saying, hey, do you agree that this is land that can be developed in this way? If the plan is something that you choose to approve. To me, this is in alignment with the 2040 plan, which I agree with. I was a part of, I came to the meetings and helped get that, this is what growth looks like for us. Even if I don't love it, it's still what it looks like for us. So I hear you. I think that you guys need to just keep speaking really loud and make sure your voices are heard in this process, but that's what it is.
And again, I wanted to go back to in the process, if we approve this tonight, it goes to the council and so on, but then the next round, there would be also room for public input into how it's cut up and divided.
Correct, yes.
My picture of this is that there'll still be some 10-acre plots that are not changing, because unless it's a willing seller, willing environment, right? Nobody.
Well, the land being included with what we're considering, I understand to be intended to be parceled up, but it's not impacting any adjacent landowner that lives there. Their land, their guidance is not proposed to be changed unless they want to request it, which it doesn't sound like that's true.
Right.
No, it would not impact any of the surrounding properties. It's just for the properties owned by the applicant that we're considering tonight.
So within the confines of the property that he owns, there would be then 3 to 3.5 units per acre.
Probably closer to 3.5, yep.
Which might be surrounded then by other 10-acre parcels.
Correct.
Which is
Yep.
some of the families that are here.
And there might be, depending on how they ultimately lay this thing out, there might be buffers and areas adjacent to those that are left more open. But that's obviously what a concept plan would show.
And for the benefit of the audience, I wanted to reconfirm too that there's 2 more phases where there's public input to the layout, the potential plan.
Well, yes, when
it's laid out.
When the rezoning and the preliminary plat, those 2 require hearings.
Okay.
So they may be done concurrently depending on how the process plays out. But there is that involvement for the residents.
But in previous property developments, that's where you would look at where are the roads laid out? How is it entering Highway 7? How is it fitting with the rest of the properties around it? You'd have a chance to see that and react to that as well in the future.
Would this come to council on the 3rd or the 17th of November?
I guess that's something we'll have to figure out. Based obviously, you have a lot of comments and feedback here. We'll have to talk with the applicant and about getting their concept and everything situated. I think that would likely be a goal is to have at least the concept by the time the council looks at this. So really it depends on some of those factors that aren't fully within mine or the city's control. And obviously we'd have to look at we are required to move things along in a certain process between 60 and 120 days. That was brought up a few times before. So we'll just have to look at where we're at for that timeline, make sure we stay within that window. But yes. So I don't know whether we would intend on November 3rd or November 17th or possibly even into December. It depends on where things are at. But I think at least having a concept for the council makes sense. I'll let the commission here determine if seeing a plan would change your thoughts on it. Again, you're just making a recommendation here, but that's totally up to you as the commission.
Wouldn't hate seeing the plan, but I also would like to know a little bit more about the traffic, because I feel like we talked about the traffic multiple times just throughout our meeting tonight. So just seeing what they have to say about that, I think would be beneficial.
Who can we talk to about that? Because I agree, traffic's
Yeah.
like a big thing, but I know it's a state highway, so I feel like we have no jurisdiction.
Right.
So how do those things come together?
The engineer will work with MI or the builder, and they'll come together with traffic plans of how to flow it, what access they can even get from MnDOT to Highway 7, because MnDOT has to approve access. It's kind of like Woodland Cove, they only allowed the one roundabout. So they'll work with them to see what MnDOT's going to allow. I'm assuming they'll only let one access point. They might want to filter it all down to Kings Point. They might, they'll decide where the front edge road is, how traffic gets in and out, all that. So the engineer will work with the builder, and they'll work with MnDOT and Hennepin County to figure that out. But they won't do any of that until there's a plat. So, I mean.
But is that an open process that these guys that our citizens can have input into with MnDOT? Or is that, I guess, because it seems like a big thing, I don't know.
They'll be allowed to come to council meetings, provide feedback, and
go through.
Yeah, and then we can bring that to our engineer. Allison's at most of the meetings, so she'll be there. She makes comments, she writes it down, she goes back, she'll work with MI if they don't have a representative there. It's a big process where we listen to the residents, we take their feedback, we also look at what's actually feasible. Like with the water treatment plant, we were like, we want access on Highway 7, and they're like, no, good luck, too bad. So sometimes they're just like, no, we don't care what you want, you figure it out on your own. But it's a big process, and everybody has to work together on it. And council's not going to go, well, we don't care what you guys want, we're just going to do this. We listen, we're very open about it. It's all going to work together.
Yeah, and I think it's been said a few times, but as part of the comprehensive plan amendment process with the Met Council, I believe an environmental study is required, and that includes a component related to traffic. So again, independent of the decision the city makes, the Met Council is not even going to approve it until they see what that looks like from a traffic standpoint. And whether or not they need a concept to do that, I don't know. I mean, obviously, you can look at the number of houses you're forecasting here, and you can use numbers based on how many trips that would generate, and you can understand how many trips you're adding to the corridor and that sort of thing. So that'll all get vetted out as part of that process as well. So there will be a level of understanding of where things are at even before the Met Council will consider it.
I appreciate that, but I don't have a lot of trust in what the Met Council making great decisions for the city of Minnetrista. I have a lot more trust in my city councilors.
I mean, we look at that in environmental study too.
And that's good. That gives me a lot more faith. Because, sorry, I love the Met Council. I should get a button made.
Well, we need to decide if we're going to move this forward or not. I would make a motion to say that let's move this to the city council.
I mean, like I said, you could certainly include that a concept be required, so to make sure at least the city has a concept available before it makes its final decision.
I can pretty much guarantee you council will want to see that before we make a final decision.
There you go.
So what's the language we want to use for this motion?
I can bring that back up for you. Like I said, that component, I mean, I think just to add that, you could add that the requirement for the conceptual level plan be presented with the materials for the council. So
I can't read that.
Do you want me to read it? I've got it on my phone. I figured.
Oh, I can maybe zoom in here, I suppose.
All right, so then I would move that we recommend the city council approve the requested comprehensive plan amendment to the described properties along Highway 7 and Grimm Road. Stage development district based on certain findings of fact outlined in the staff report with the following conditions. Applicant obtain all necessary permits and approvals from the city and other applicable entities with jurisdiction over the property as required, and the applicant is responsible for all fees incurred by the city in review of this application. Are there any other conditions we want to add?
And the,
Is there anything to do as far as minimizing the 3.5 or making it 1 or 2 per acre or anything like that, as far as recommendation? Just to preserve the rural nature of the areas that already has, I just drove through Woodland Cove on the way here and I don't want to have more of that in Minnetrista if possible.
I mean, I hear you, but I mean,
I live there.
I would also want to add the plat, that they have a plat for the city council to look at, which I think you
Concept.
said.
concept,
Yeah, the concept. But I think it's,
I think that needs to be included as well.
All right, are we ready for a vote?
yeah, someone second that?
Second on that?
Sarah second.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. It's 4-1.
Mm-hmm. So yes, again, for the audience here, they are a recommending body, so it will go to the city council. Unfortunately, I wish I could tell you the exact date at this time, but it's going to depend on when we get a concept and we have all the materials. I would encourage you to keep an eye on the website. It'll all be posted and made available for the public, usually the Thursday prior to that. I can say there's November 3rd and November 17th for November dates, and then it's December 8th are the 3 dates remaining on the calendar for 2025. You certainly, my name's Nick Olson, I'm the city planner. You can always reach out to me and I will happily get you whatever information you need so that you can be as informed as possible through the process.
And I just have one thing to add for everyone concerned about the Highway 7. You can go online to you can basically just Google Highway 7 study, and they have a link and you can add comments right now to all their proposed roundabouts and all of that. I encourage everyone to do it. More feedback, the better. Council does respond, does give our feedback. We work through our engineer. So council is providing it, but if you personally want to do it, you can go online and do that as well.
I think is a good recommendation because I think some of their studies are old, for like around COVID timeframe is what I've been educated on too. So with the traffic flow, it is a very different state too than at that point in time. So.
Yeah, I didn't know that was open.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right.
We voted, right? Yeah, we're there.
Yeah, we're all good there.
All right. So item 3.
Yes. Maybe we'll give it a second here. I don't know if everyone's interested.
Thank you all.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Kick out neighbors, can't be neighbors and things like this.
Wow, good to see you.
And then there's
Oh,
one.
Nick, This is,
You're all alone.
this is at least the second.
Should have done
time
that one first.
I wished we had.
Sit through all this. So patient.
Right.
You know, I remember when I was in teaching, we used to have, in social studies, we had a thing on how a bill becomes a law. And you had this little sheet that would say, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And I've been in this meeting now 3 times with you where I've said, well, but what's next?
Mm-hmm.
So I wondered if it'd be worthwhile, I don't assign duties to you,
Mm-hmm.
to write up something that says, here's how we go from, a piece of bare land,
Mm-hmm.
somebody wants to sell it, somebody doesn't want to sell it, whatever,
And
to a piece that's developed and some of the milestone decisions. If that would help you, it would certainly help me, I think.
Yeah, we could look at that. I mean,
Have that
I'm
as
sure.
a tool to say, here's where we are. And even for the audience to say, there's 2 more meetings where you're going to have a chance to look at plats. You'll have a chance to help us decide what you like, what you don't like about that. I think there's a lot of stuff that happens here that I don't think we make really clear up front to people that would help them understand.
Also, how do I understand, because I feel like you were saying that it's pushing us to the 3.5 based on the Met Council. How do I get more information about that to understand a little bit more about the direction that I feel like is sort of being
I
forced
mean, you
upon?
probably go to their website.
And
I mean,
like,
because They've, just like us, they've
Is
got
it the
a.
2040 plan, like
So
with
the
everyone else?
2040 plan is what we're all operating
Yeah.
on, right?
And
So
all
as-
cities around here are operating on the same.
if you're in the
like,
seven, if you're in the 7 county metro area, you're required to have a comprehensive plan. You're required to update it every 10 years. The
Mhm.
Met Council themselves has a comprehensive plan that they update every 10 years. So they're already beginning to plan for their 2050. And they're basically telling cities we're starting to implement this. And that's why we as the city have to keep that same mindset, because they're going to look back at us. So it's better to try to stay with it and slightly ahead of it if we can, because if we fall behind, then you get forced into developments like this. At least in this situation, we have a landowner that's willing to do it. We're not telling the landowner you have to do it. Could you imagine if we had to tell those guys that farmed, hey, you are changing, you have to change? They would not have been happy, right?
No.
At least they get to preserve their little bit for now. It's because of other development happening. Is it fun for anyone? No, it's not, right?
So how do I find out about that specifically? Like
You can
the,
just go to like type in and search Met Council 2050 plan.
okay.
It's called Imagine 2050 and they have a full page of all of their
you.
stuff
I mean-
that I'm sure will just
I get
make
their
you very annoyed.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
They're-
can't wait to get their newsletters.
Oh, yeah.
The zoning is confusing to me because like I was trying to look at that and then understand where I was asking about the stair step in between. Because Woodland Cove is all pink.
That's
which is
mixed.
Yeah, it's mixed. Because it's a planned development. So like if they were like, we want to put townhomes, apartments,
Yeah.
commercial,
And that's-
all in
yeah.
one.
Residential.
So
and
this
then
should be
Zoning
truly
bylaw.
like individual family homes.
This,
The half gets me a little bit because I'm like usually a third of an acre is kind of.
right.
At least-
No, these would, I mean, there may be townhomes associated with this. When you get to that 3.5, you kind of got to start getting to like townhomes. So you might see like Woodland Cove has 4, 5, 6 unit townhome buildings. You maybe see some of that. Or you see like the villas where things are somewhat tightly packed together. I mean, to get to 3.5, that's what you're starting to look like,
Yeah,
right?
that's what that was.
But that's where a concept
that
obviously
half was
helps.
Catching me, the extra half.
It's just an overall calculation, right? So I mean, think of it as, 3.5 units per acre, so 7 on 2 acres. If you want round numbers, it's the same idea. It's just a number that we're, like I said, we're going to be held to. So it's kind of, for lack of a better way to put it, a pass through to, they're going to tell us, so we have to inform developers that this is what the expectation is.
Do we know what that number is by chance, or I mean, I'll look it up if I have to, but.
What's that?
The current number that we have to hit for density or,
Well, it's the 3.5 is, where we have to be. I don't know where our overall numbers are on the city. I'd have to do that.
3.5 for those specific zones.
So anything new has to be at least 3.5, and the city's overall has to be 3.5. So there is 2 checkpoints, if you will. The simplest way is if this is at 3.5, you're not, in theory, lowering your overall density away from 3.5, right? If you're meeting that standard, you'd at least stay on pace wherever you are with that, right? If you start developing at 3 or 2.5, your number goes down and it gets away from 3.5, and Met Council doesn't like that.
What's our number right now today?
I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
It's probably over 3. I don't know how close to 3.5 we are. But
I'm
I mean,
surprised that we're over 3 with as much rural land as we have.
Yay, apartments.
But it doesn't,
but
yeah.
it's,
Apartments though.
citywide.
So the Met
it's,
Council,
they care about what's serviced by sewer. So all the rural, they don't really care about as much.
Oh, okay.
Because it doesn't really impact that calculation. So it's what's on the utilities on the sewer is the big utility, as to what they concern as being at that 3, now 3.5.
Do we get any benefit of removing parkland? Like we have a lot of parkland in Minnetrista.
They have, the Met Council has what you can, because a site, when you start, it's gross acres, right? That's what, and then you eventually get down to the net acres, which is the brass tacks, what everyone cares about. They have the formula of what you can exempt out to go from gross to net. Most of it is wetlands, wetland buffers, stuff like that. Parks, I think there's certain criteria they have to meet. So I don't think inherently a park is exempt from that. I think it's considered in the density most of the time. But yeah, so there is.
The Three River Parkland, like if we could.
Well, some of that's not in certainly Gale Wood's not in the service area, so they wouldn't care about that. The regional park, I don't know how that, I have to look and double check how that factors in, but that's technically in the service area, but I don't know what they have for connections into utilities even. Because they're so large, they might have private treatment. I don't know.
So the Met Council thinks our population in 2050 should be 12,500 roughly, which equates to 4,200 households. So, I mean, they want us to add almost 1,000 households.
25 years.
Well, no, because we're in the 2040 now, so in 10 years. Because they're 20, like in 10 years, we're going to start the 2060, like what they're.
By that time frame, they want us to achieve that by. So we have 25 years to get to that extra 1,000 by 2050, right?
No.
No,
because they're.
You said 2050 is the.
That's the plan name. It's not like your.
Should we move on to this other item quick and let her get out and then we can have our continued discussion? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be rude, but I just want to make sure.
Absolutely say that.
Be cognizant of her time here.
You're so sorry.
Actually, I think, I mean, depending on how much questions you guys have, we did this last month for a separate property and a separate agency. But this time we were able to put together a staff report, give you some kind of background here. This evening we have the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District is looking at acquiring a property within Minnetrista. 6300 Painter Road is the address. It's located in kind of the northeastern portion of the city. It's adjacent to land they already own. They're certainly working towards water quality improvements and things like that. Heading down Painters Creek and into Jennings Bay and into Lake Minnetonka. So that's generally the intent behind this, is for, continued conservation areas and preservation and things like that. This is another case of a willing seller. That property is for sale. So they are working with that property owner, but because they are a public agency purchasing land within Minnetrista, we do have to go through the motions to make sure that it is consistent with our comprehensive plan. So you as the planning agency, the planning commission, should consider this and then make a recommendation onto the city council, who's the governing body, as to whether or not this complies with the long-range municipal plan. Based on its location relative to other holdings they have and the intent and the purpose of the land, staff feels it is a certainly reasonable proposition here. So the recommendation would be to determine that this acquisition is consistent with our long-range comprehensive plan, and have the city council adopt a resolution of support. So I know that was all kind of quick. So if there's specific questions, I'm here. We do have a representative from MCWD if there's more technical questions that I cannot answer. But yeah, the recommendation or what we'd be seeking is that a motion for consistency with the comprehensive plan.
So did this one as well. We contacted neighboring properties and no comments or feedback.
This does not require a public notice process.
Okay.
What is actually happening? Come on, why don't you come up and tell us what's happening?
Hi, Planning Commission. Kaylee Cermak, Planner Project Manager with the Watershed District. As part of we also have our set of, standard legal processes that we run. So we have just noticed a public hearing ourselves for the acquisition that will be on November 6th. So property owners within 1,000 feet of the property have been notified that there's like a pending kind of proposed acquisition. And I've heard from one resident so far, just out of kind of curiosity. And then as far as a question I heard kind of about intent for the property, short term, we're looking at demoing kind of the old structures on site. There's an 1890 built home, quite a few older structures, and a lot of just kind of older remnants from its farming history. So looking to kind of clear the site of those, do some mild grading, native seeding, and kind of keep it, and then in the near term in kind of a conservation private property status. To give us a little bit of time, we're running through a watershed-wide diagnostic study right now, collecting data, want to see what that tells us about the system, give us time to engage with all the public partners in this sub-watershed ahead of our next comprehensive plan. That's always seems right around the corner, but we're kicking that in motion to look at what we can do for kind of regional water quality benefits. So stream restoration, larger scale wetland restoration. And then we've talked with staff about being open to exploring ways of, passive recreation on the site like we've done over at 6 Mile Marsh too.
I lost my question. So if anybody else has one, I have a question, but I can't articulate it.
I was just curious what the feedback was from the one resident that you received.
Sure. He's on the other side of the creek, so just adjacent to the Painter Creek Estates Park that kind of the city and the district kind of own in conjunction there. He's on the horizon looking to sell in the next 5 to 10 years. So we're just kind of curious, how his surroundings might be changing when he goes to sell.
So the idea would be to take off any structures on the property, and to any runoff that would get into the creek has to be addressed so that it's keeps clean. And,
right.
And how, this came up just because the seller or the property owner wanted to sell?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
There was no linchpin to this particular little parcel.
So our interest in this site actually dates back to the early 2000s. We were negotiating with this exact homeowner over a conservation easement. And that never kind of came to fruition at that time. And so the homeowner had that memory in her head when she had the house sitting on the market. Hey, let's reach out to the watershed and see if they're still interested. So we started kind of digging back in, doing our due diligence on the potential that the site has. Sometimes we've gone a little bit further in our project planning stage before we would seek a property acquisition. So we'd be able to tell you, the project scope, the cost. This one, we're looking at kind of the potential and how it fits within our strategy for the subwatershed. It does have about 1,500 feet of creek frontage, so about 1/3 of a mile. So it's a pretty unique site in that respect. And being adjacent to city and watershed district land on the other side, it really positions us well to do kind of full stream bank restoration through there. And it is kind of a pinch point in that it's fully downstream of all the really large wetland complexes that we see in the subwatershed, even north of the city boundary. So it allows us to kind of think about how we're treating kind of wetland export at a subwatershed regional scale.
So it's like it becomes parkland? I mean, accessible to the citizens?
I think long-term, we are open to that. Short-term, I think our intention would that it be posted as private property. We are keeping one. There's a new pole barn structure on the site. We would keep that just in the short term till more understanding is done about the site and what we'd want to do with it. But we'll continue talking with staff once we get into feasibility and thinking about the potential for the site on whether we would open it up and provide kind of public community amenities.
And are we making a decision as to whether it is in compliance with the comp plan?
You're making the recommendation, but yes, that's the root of your role here, is that if this were to be owned by a public agency, it's consistent with our long range plan. And because of the environmental issues here, certainly think that's always a key topic to protect our natural resources. So that'd be kind of the direction.
And this property too is in, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but permanent agriculture. So it's zoned for, one house per 10 acres. This is
Yeah, it's in the agriculture zoning. Yep.
Would there be any potential rezoning for housing on it potentially in the future to offset cost, or?
Not from our perspective. We're under the understanding that, it can't be redeveloped and kind of.
Not in the current zoning. So, we'd have to be back to what we were here just a moment ago talking about if they were to even consider it, but it's not, there would be no further development at this time based on the current framework of the codes and the comprehensive plan, et cetera.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I love the idea of keeping our waters clean, anything you're adding to it, so.
Neighbors are thrilled too.
Yeah, and you're gonna keep it under the rural character, and it's
Right.
going to be just a
And
beautiful open piece of land, so.
And the watershed district always does good work, in my opinion, so.
I agree.
So I would make the motion to recommend allowing the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District's acquisition of 6300 Painter Road. And support. Do I need to say anything else?
Second.
Okay. Fast.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Can I ask you another question on with the 6 Mile Creek? I heard that I think it's going into the planning phase. Curious if it's approved for a big water treatment facility that will go into Halstead's Bay. Do you have any updates on that?
Some mild updates. So yeah, we have a piece of land that is kind of adjacent to 6 Mile Creek there. And in our capital improvement plan, we have a project identified for addressing load to Halsted Bay. We're kind of booting off kind of a feasibility study probably coming this winter. We're kind of just getting into conversations with our board again about the size of that project and just the size of that issue with that big wetland system bringing in quite a bit of phosphorus into Halsted. So those conversations are kind of booting back up. And we're really using those conversations and those studies to think about Painter Creek as well. It's a wetland dominated system with some similar issues. So kind of using it as a way to learn and kind of reboot our understanding around that site. So nothing concrete yet.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second on the selling the property and approval for that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And I have one other question, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Unrelated to this property. I'm also on the Lake Minnetonka Conservation District, and we have been recently approving docks in the wetland areas. We gave an approval to someone to remove 300 feet of cattails so they could put in a dock. And I checked with your office, and apparently that is not in violation of any of your principles. I would have thought it would be. Do you have any connection to that?
Is this the Lost Lake?
Lost Lake is one.
Okay.
Another one is 6 Mile Creek. And my fear is, I think we're being too loose in docks. But there's a lot of pressure to have a dock anywhere there's a piece of water. And the one on 6 Mile Creek, they were going to have to pull themselves out of there because they can't have a motor.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. And yet the pressure on the conservation district to approve all these docks is crazy. So.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we get word of most of those, dock permits that come through kind of our door, but usually they are coming in for like within a public water. So it's DNR paired with the Lake Minnetonka Conservation District that really have a lot of the kind of final say in approving those. But I can get a little more information on that and plug in with my.
I just would have thought it would have been a violation to rip up the cattails, but apparently not. So, all right, that's not for me. I'm sorry. Any other conversation on this?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
Very much.
Thank you.
Will that be on the 3rd or the 17th?
Yeah, we'll put that on the 3rd, I think, the November 3rd city council meeting. So.
Staff reports.
Yes, let me look here. What do we have? I think we had the variance for the house was on our last meeting that went through. It was approved by the city council. They have applied for their building permit, so that's in the process of being reviewed. So they seem to want to move quickly on that one. Looking forward to, we have a meeting on November, it's the 24th. Is our next date. We have at least a couple items on that agenda. I think a guest home, conditional use permit, and a setback variance. So mark that on your calendars. I understand it does get close to the Thanksgiving holiday, but hopefully enough of you were able to show up so we can keep those things moving. That's really all I have. I'll let Kathleen give you council updates.
Not too many. We approved the water treatment plant, which came in about $1 million over budget. Yeah. So we opted not to do the pretty exterior since the project was over budget. We'll be discussing new water rates at our November 3rd work session and just what those will go up to with the new tiers and how painful that will be for those of us on city water. The plan is to switch to monthly billing in July, so that should help alleviate the price because you'll be able to judge how much water you're using a lot quicker than every quarter and hopefully use less. Construction will start in the spring. It's just too late in the year for them to do anything right now. And then full completion will be 2028. It is, as we stated earlier, it does account for growth. There is the clear well, there is capacity. The good news is with the new plant, we'll be able to take the current one offline, do maintenance on that if we need to, and we'll be able to take the Kings Point Tower off and paint it and make it look nice. So that will be done when that's up. The other thing, we added the 16th police, or we approved a 16th police officer. So when we can find a good candidate, we'll get one hired, which is awesome. So that probably won't be till mid 2026, just with the options that are out there. So we were fully staffed with the 15th officer for, I think, all of 3 months. So it's, yeah. Hiring police officers has not gotten any easier in the last 5 years. The other big thing is we just added a 4-way stop in Woodland Cove at the corner of Lotus and the Sunset Wolfberry curve there. So that was a big thing with the residents. And I don't know, any questions for me on anything going on with council?
Was the $1 million over budget before or after they decided to not do the fancy facade?
That's without the fancy facade.
So how much did that save?
No, it's $1 million. The fancy facade would have added $260,000 to it. So it's still $1 million over budget without the facade.
Well, kudos for making that tough change.
Yeah.
Well, the residents that look at it, well, funny enough, the residents that have to look at it were very, very mad when we said no. So, it's not.
It's over by the pickleball. It's gonna be by the pickleball courts in Woodland Cove. Yeah.
Yes. So
I was trying to understand that because I sometimes hike in the little woods back there.
Yeah, so on the road, I don't know if Lisa told you at the last meeting, the road is going through the neighborhood and not through Three Rivers Park. So the residents that back up to the road are happy. The new homes that will be going next to this road will probably not be happy, but.
They don't exist yet.
Yeah.
They don't at least know it's going to happen in advance.
Well, hopefully, because they're building them as spec homes. So hopefully they tell the people that buy them that that's what's going to be happening.
And hopefully there's some nice landscaping that will cover the bad facade.
Good news is it's happening and there will be plenty of water for everyone on the south system. The north system has capacity, but again, like I stated, if somebody wants to do a huge development, and if the state legislature pushes through a middle housing bill where we have no say, then we would not have capacity. So we'll continue to push for them not to take away our zoning rights. But it's like, who knows? It's like the Met Council, they do what they want and we just are along for the ride.
On old business piece, up on former garage site, a garbage site rather, that had the boat storage in there. How did that?
It's still being litigated.
Still being litigated?
I have to run for hockey pickup. I'm so sorry.
It'll be a while.
But I heard your report out earlier. Second report out. Thank you.
Adjourn? Move to adjourn, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Second.
Yep.
I'm like, I have to get to Minnetrista for hockey.
All right, thanks
Yeah,
very
it's still being
much.
litigated, so I can't say anything about it.
Of course.
Is that the place right on the corner of
sorry.
Branch and,
Yeah.
is it that place?
Yeah, past the high school.
That's for sale right now?
No.